How do we start this?
Well, I think for
big news. I think, well, first I'll start with I made a big announcement last week on Instagram. And this is kind of the video to dive deeper and explain the reasoning, I guess, behind those big decisions.
Yeah.
There's kind of 3 parts to this journey. I would say it's the contract. It's the deciding to leave Mike Smith, my coach for the past 3 years, and then it's the decision to work with Juli Benson moving forward.
Right.
Is that a good way to separate it, you think?
I don't know if it needs to be 3 parts, but yeah, there's
Part one.
There's fun lore to this big decision. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay, yeah.
So
we do have to rewind a bit.
Explain what your setup has been. So going into everything.
Okay, so in 2022, I feel like is a good place to start. It's where I made a lot of decisions. We moved to Flagstaff, Arizona in March of 2022, so it's been exactly 3 years. And crazy. And then also in 2020, and that's when I started working with Mike Smith. And then also in 2022, I signed with Lululemon in June. So right at our US championships. Yeah, I debuted in Lulu kit, and
I feel like a little context to that time period can help give context to this time period. But the reason that we moved to Flagstaff is for the high altitude, and it was also to work with a coach that could coach well at high altitude. I think those were one of the 2 biggest reasons for our huge move in 2022. You kind of knew going in that you were working with a college coach. So it wasn't like a set up pro team group. It was essentially just here's this college coach who knows how to coach at high altitude. And
he has a handful of pros.
He had a handful of pros, but it's a very individual setup, and that we moved here so that you could run and train at high altitude and work with someone who knows how to write workouts for that. So that was kind of our plot for the past 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. It was, one of my first conversations with Mike was he's like, I am first and foremost a college coach. The pros that I work with have to be very independent. I've spent the good amount of the past 3 years at, a lot of track meets alone, whether that be because he was at a conference championship or the NCAA regional meet, right? First and foremost, he's a college coach, and I knew that going in. So yeah, I think that's good kind of lore to be I've been pretty independent the past 3 years and kind of had to really step into owning that independence. And
anyway, so that was the past 3 years. Cut to summer.
We're so all over the place.
No, we're not. This makes so much sense. Okay. Cut to summer 2024. Olympic trials, Olympics.
Yes.
What happened after you got home from the Olympics?
That's a good place to start. Okay, this is where the contract negotiations come in. So contracts have start dates and end dates. So my contract with Lululemon started in June of 2022, and it ended January 31st, 2025. Essentially end of 2024 plus 1 month was the end of my Lululemon deal. Anyway, so in the fall, that's when my agent starts to, it's when you're coming up on the end date of your contract, the negotiation part happens. And I have an agent, his name's Howie Kufleski, and he's the one that talks to brands on my behalf, but he represents me.
Shout out to Howie.
Shout out Howie.
Adore Howie, yeah.
Okay, so that's the contract part of it. Then the coaching part was during the Olympic trials, during the summer leading into Olympics, Mike Smith was having conversations with Nike, and they approached him to be a full-time Nike coach and be the coach of one of the groups that they're trying to start. So sometime in the summer, Mike Smith signs a Nike contract and fully commits to being a coach for a Nike group based in Flagstaff starting January 2025 is when his contract starts.
And you found out, you were told that in late August.
Yeah, so right when I got home from the Olympics, Mike told me, and then it was very shortly after announced to the world that he would be leaving NAU and become a full-time pro coach. And in our meeting, he was like, this is happening, but it doesn't affect us. My athletes who I already coach are grandfathered into the group. So if we want to keep working together, if you want to and I want to, then we're we're good. And I was like, cool, you know?
Yep.
So then a month later, end of September, probably early October, I had another meeting with Mike, and he basically told me, hey, remember how a month ago we were talking and it was gonna be cool if you were with Lulu and we still work together? I was like, yeah. He was like, so things have changed and you need to sign with Nike and be a Nike athlete in order for us to continue to work together. That was like a whoa, okay, like good to know, like, you know.
What was your first reaction when you heard that?
I don't think I was surprised. I think I was surprised in the OG meeting that I was gonna be able to continue to work with him even if I wasn't a Nike athlete. So I think when I was like, that makes more sense as soon as he said it. I think it was a little bit like, okay, wow, I'm gonna have to really make a big decision now, but I think ultimately I was like, that makes sense. Then we kind of had like a big decision to make. Do I sign a Nike contract and become a Nike athlete and stay with my coach that I've had a lot of success under, or do I stay with the brand that I've been really happy with since 2022? I feel like we were making that decision from October through like January. Yeah, it was like a 3-month thing of kind of going back and forth and what pros and cons of each setup. So for me, something that's really important is the first professional contract I ever signed was with Adidas, and I was with them for 3 years, and that was very like performance based. It was, you know, the emphasis on like making US teams and representing the US on the global stage. You know, the bonus incentives were very like, do well and we'll pay you more, which is, it's running, that's what it is. What's been very refreshing about being with Lululemon since 2022 is one of my first conversations ever with them was, you're doing really cool things. You're a really awesome representative when it comes to the queer community and the running community, and we just want to help you. We want to amplify you. We want to represent you. It was very much like, what can we do for you, instead of the vibe I felt with Adidas of what can you do for us. And when I was getting recruited by Nike, and it just very much reminded me of that Adidas structure of, we want you to make teams, we want you to win, we want, you know, just like, so it was just interesting because I've found a lot of success within the past 3 years with the model of, I can stand on the start line and it does not matter if I get first, third, or 12th.
Included in some of these like pretty typical running contracts, they sometimes have reductions regarding certain performance outcomes, right? So it's not just that they'll give bonuses for certain outcomes, there's also reductions if you don't meet them. That's like a part of running contracts. And that's a unique thing about Lululemon, is that those contracts, yeah, they're not as performance based in like that typical way.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing to note when we're explaining the situation.
It was an interesting thought to go back to that model, and I just was really uneasy and unsure about it. I think another part of it was, do I want to step into a brand that I feel like has not had the greatest things happen?
Yeah.
Good word.
Yeah.
I remember listening, I feel like I listen to a lot of podcasts. Rick Roll's one of my favorite ones, and Kara Goucher was on it within the past year. I don't remember when, but she was talking about her experience with Nike and the Nike groups, and she just said something that really stuck out to me. She's like, we have intuition for a reason, and I should have listened to it. And it was, I felt like when I was meeting with the Nike team and going through the process and asking the hard questions, my gut was just being like, this isn't your brand. These aren't the people that you're supposed to work with. And I took Kara's advice and I was like, I'm gonna trust this gut feeling. And so that's what I did. I ultimately decided to leave my coach and re-sign with Lululemon, and I am so excited for the future. I feel like that brings us to the third part 3 of the next chapter, and that's working with Juli Benson. Is that good? Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry. We had to delete some stuff on the memory card. Okay, where were we? Part 3, Juli Benson. This is exciting because I met Juli through Emma Gee. I was coaching Emma in 2023 and 2024.
Coaching is a strong word.
Yeah, I was writing a workout.
Explain what was actually going on. I feel that.
I was fully invested in my career, trying to be the best athlete I could be, and I was also helping Emma get back into shape and writing some of her steeple workouts, and
which was so nice. Thank
you. But it was hard because we'd go to the track at the same time and both be working out, so I couldn't like time Emma. I couldn't be like really watching. Okay, how is she looking? Because I was focused on my workout, so I was writing her workouts. I wasn't coaching. I think that's too glorified of a term to describe what I was doing.
Totally. But yeah, so this past summer, we both competed at the Olympic trials, and you know, Nikki won and I pretty much took dead last. So I was like, all right,
time for a change.
Time for a change. So I fired Nikki, and I'm joking, I didn't fire them.
It was a mutual decision.
It was a mutual decision. But essentially, I just got the impression like, hey, like I need more support and, you know, some really serious training structure if I'm going to compete at this level, because that's what I really want. Anyway, so one of our very, very, very best friends in the running world is Maddie Borman. She's an incredible steeplechaser, and we got to know her really well in 2024. And she always had the best things to say about her coach. And who's this Juli? Like, who's this queen that's so like great at her job? Like, hello. I got into contact with Juli over the summer, and she agreed to work with me. And so ever since like August, September, you know, we've been working together, and just an incredible coach, you know, so communicative, so easy to work with, you know, really great at just like identifying areas in which I can improve. And it was just, I mean, given the fall that we were having, like, you know, a lot of things felt up in the air, but I felt really grounded, you know, working with Juli. And that was honestly just felt like such a blessing during the time.
Anyone who's in Emma's support system is automatically in mine, and vice versa. And so I felt like I was kind of watching from afar how detail-oriented Juli was, and how Emma would get her workouts every Sunday and training, and Juli would, you know, call after every workout, how are you doing? And it just was cool to just witness from the outside, oh cool, this is what this coach is all about, and kind of see her process through Emma. And Emma is the most important person in the world to me, and anyone who is kind and gracious and supportive of Emma, like I'm automatically a huge fan of. And so I feel like I kind of got to know Juli through that. And I think a really cool part about Juli is that she was a professional runner herself. She ran at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. So the last time the Olympics were at home.
She competed in the 1500?
She competed in my event. When I was, you know, starting to think of making a coaching change, if I was to go Lululemon, it was kind of a no-brainer. It was cool because you started working with Juli around the Olympics, and I remember you being on the phone with her. We were in St. Moritz. I think you were on speakerphone, and I came into the room or something, and you were saying goodbye, and I was like, bye, Juli, and she's like, oh, is that Nikki? I was like, yeah. And she was like, how are you feeling? Like, you know, the Olympics starts in a week. Like, how are you feeling for it? And I'm like, excited, nervous, whatever. And like, she's like, not to overstep, but I just want to give you like one piece of advice. She's like, when you walk into that stadium, it's going to be overwhelming. Like, it's going to be the loudest stadium. You're probably going to get this wave of emotion of, holy shit, I'm at the Olympic Games. And she goes, and just prepare for that. And that was it. And I was like, okay, like, thanks. And like, she hung up, and like, I went on. And it was just so crazy how like correct she was. Like, walking into round one, I was like, oh my God, I'm at the Olympics. And this stadium is packed. And it was just like, just so cool to know, like, I just immediately trusted her because she's been there before, right? She stood on the start line of an Olympic trials and tried to be top 3. She stood on the start line of an Olympics and been like, holy shit, and I'm an Olympian. And so it was just cool to get that like little piece of advice from someone who has been in the spikes herself. Yeah, and so I don't know, I think that's kind of the backstory of how I got to know her and see her process, and I was like, I could see myself working with this person. I think another really cool part about Juli and her career is that when it comes to her coaching career, she in 2011 she was Jenny Simpson's coach, and that's the year that Jenny won the world championships in Daegu, and it's the last time an American on the women's side has won a global medal in that event. And so I feel like it was just like, whoa, Juli's been at a home Olympics and she's coached the last person competing in the women's 1500 to a gold medal. Like,
right.
Shoot. Like, those are two of my goals right there. Like, I want to be in LA. I want to be at that home Olympics. Like, and I want, like, whether that's in LA or the years leading up to it, I want to win a medal. Like, and I want it to be gold, you know? Like, that's the goal. And so, yeah, I just think that gives me a lot of confidence and excitement moving forward.
Well, it's also just kind of crazy how it worked out. Like, I can't even explain how wild it was. Like, it was just like we got to know Maddie, and then we got to know Juli, and then, you know, we had no idea until the middle of the fall, basically, about this whole Nike situation, you know, and not being able to work with Mike. So, you know, I think there's a lot of, like, gratitude that we have for, like, having been able to make that connection, and, you know, that she's, like, available, you know, to work with us and everything. I feel like it just, there's so much gratitude. And then just the honor of being able to work with a woman who's been in this sport. That's also, like, unfortunately unique, right? There's not many, like,
women coaches.
Yeah, women coaches who...
On the professional level.
On the professional
college level.
That you can, where you can tap into their experience and it feels very, like, relevant to the goals that, you know, we have. You know, it's just like when one door closes, another opens. And, you know, I think we can both say we're so, like, grateful for what we've learned over the past 3 years. Like, truly, I think you can gain so much confidence from just, like, independence and kind of being in charge of your career so much. And I think that's, you know, making this next chapter, like, a lot easier, because it's just like we
have a lot of confidence.
We know what we're doing. We know how to train in Flagstaff, and so
okay, I think that's pretty much it. I feel like the one thing I do want to acknowledge or just express gratitude for is the 3 years that I had with Mike. It's pretty cool that it's kind of exactly 3 years, moving air to March, and then it's March 2nd when we're making this video. Anyways, like, I feel like I've had a lot of accomplishments with him. I think I've won 7 national titles, an American record, like, great achievements on the track. I could list them all, but it'd take too long. But I think,
oh my god.
I think what I'm, like, most appreciative, like, those are obviously really cool and really special to me, but I think it's the ways in which Mike helped me grow as an athlete is which I'm most grateful for. You know, he really instilled that it's not about the outcomes, it's about the process and the doing and the, you know, things that I'll carry with me forever for the rest of my career. Yeah, I wish him and Rachel the best of luck with their new endeavor. We'll still be in Flagstaff and cheering them on, and I think that's another piece of it that we need to clarify. We are living and staying in Flagstaff. Don't fix what's not broken. I know my training's, like, not gonna change. Like, I'm gonna do hills on Thursday, threshold on Tuesday, right?
It's, like, all the same stuff.
It's all the same. I think it's just, you know, changing your coach. I mean, it's a big thing, but it's, the meat and potatoes will stay the same.
I know.
I don't know why I said that.
That was insane. Cheers to a new chapter.
So that's the tea.
I know, it wasn't even that much of tea. Running is kind of boring, to be honest. It's, like, such a journey.